Okay, and we are live. Good morning. This is Eddie Rocks, and you are watching Eddie Rocks, the live stream. All right, welcome to the show. Today is a very exciting day for us because we have our first guest ever. It's going to be on the show. But before we get to him, just a couple of things I wanted to talk about. First off, let's take a look at the traffic cam. All right, there's the traffic cam. Not a whole lot of traffic, and it could be because there was a terrible accident. Well, there's one car, and here we can see the accident further down the road from me. And this is the kind of thing that happens. You know, I say every day we've got to do a little bit better about our driving here in Savannah. And where this accident was taking place, the speed limit was 25. So I can't imagine what the problem was. But I'm going to say probably speed was involved. So in the future, let's try to obey the speed limit. The speed limit is your friend. And, again, we want to, if you're in the fast lane going slow, you need to move right and move over and get out the way. That way we would have less accidents. Okay? And moving on from the early morning wreck today, today is the first day for early voting here in Chatham County. So it's going to happen for the next week, I guess, or maybe even longer. I'd have to double check. But it is early voting today, so a lot of people lined up early. I mean, before the sun was up, they were getting in line, ready to vote. There's a lot of excitement around this election, and I encourage you to go out and vote, just like every app is telling me every day. It's really getting annoying. Even in the wreck photograph, we actually saw a sign of one of the candidates, and I was saying you don't see many of them, but this one's kind of set off the road, and I hadn't really seen it until I took the photograph. But voting is, of course, something we all do, or we all should do every couple of years. And I don't need every application I open to tell me this. I don't know why big tech is now trying to rock the vote like this, but I think any intelligent person already knows that. And trying to get a bunch of people who don't know anything about politics, or at least don't know anything about the situation in their own town, getting them to vote maybe isn't the best thing. I heard somebody talking about perhaps if we all did some kind of service to actually get to vote. For example, a year in the Peace Corps or in the military or some other service for the community. So that way you're civic minded, and we know that the people who are voting are civic minded. So I know the League of Women Voters is out collecting people in trolleys, trying to get them to the polls. And I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not. If you have an opinion, please put it in the comments. But today, since we're talking about voting, we have a candidate from the great state of Hawaii. And he is a good friend of mine. And I'm wearing a shirt today that says NASCAR TV. That was the first ever show that I actually made. And this was in Hawaii. It was on the cable access television there. So it was actually on television. And we had a great time making this. John was the pastor at my church, and he and I traveled across the island. We go to all kinds of iconic places, beautiful beaches, and beautiful parks, and John would share his message from there, and then we'd also cut back to scenes from him at a desk in front of a bookshelf, and I thought that was a good mix. And then, of course, we had all kinds of images and Bible verses popping up, so it was a really fun show to make. And without further ado, please welcome to the show, John Miller. John, how are you doing today, sir? All right, he gave us the shaka. Oh, wait, let me turn you up. There he is. We couldn't hear you there for a second. Go ahead.
I said we're doing good. It's 6 o'clock, 6 a.m. here in Hawaii.
Yeah, 6 a.m. I tell you, that's early. Thank you for getting up so early to talk to us. John is working on a campaign, and tell us a little bit about what you're doing out there, John. You're running for what office are you running for exactly?
State Senate, District 22, which is Mililani Mauka, Waipio Acres, Wheeler, Wahiwa Whitmore Village. And,
all right.
I've been living here 9 years.
Kind of having a hard time hearing you. I don't know if you
Hear
have
me
a
better
mic.
now?
Yeah, yeah. There, oh
Better
yeah.
now?
Get
My
that
microphone.
microphone close to you there.
Microphone was a little away from me. But yeah, just running for Senate in my own area because I've noticed, I've been here 9 years, I've noticed nothing's changing. We have the highest rate of taxes, most regulations, uh, more homeless people than almost any other state. And every year they make these promises, oh, we're going to do all this. And then when the campaign's over, promises are broken, hearts are broken. Same old good old boy system. So I liken it to the parable of the man that was left on the side of the road beat up, and all the people kept walking by just looking at him. They were too busy, didn't have time. And the most unlikely person you would think would be a Samaritan stopped to help him. So being a pastor would be the most unlikely person you would think would get into politics. But I couldn't just keep walking by and looking at this mess and do nothing. So I actually ran the first time in 2018 for a state house and lost that election. Learned a lot about politics. My wife told me never run again, so I vowed I would never run again. I just couldn't. I prayed, and then finally I got her loose agreement. But I'll tell you about that later. It was miraculous how that happened. But you know, it all started when I went to Franklin Graham's prayer rally at the state capitol of Hawaii, and he said, if we're going to change this country, Christians have to stand up and run for office.
Amen.
I thought, that's great. People need to do this. This is really great. And on the way home, the Lord said, I want you to be one of those people. And I was like, wait a minute. I'm a pastor. I don't have time for this stuff. So it evolved into that. That was the first.
Well, that's amazing. So at first you were going for the state house, and now this is what? This is the local Oahu
This is,
government.
this is the legislature. So this is the Senate. The state house is 51 representatives, and the Senate there's 26.
Okay, so you're just going for
So
the Senate instead of the House.
you have 76 people making laws for 1.4 million people. So you can imagine the power that's there that could be used for corrupt means. So we have to have people who, with, I like to see myself as a person with more morals and values,
Well, I
and
believe you are. I was saying that
look
in
out for
yesterday's
people.
show.
Yeah, look out for people. My opponent, was raising $800,000. So I've raised maybe 2 or 3,000. So you know, it's the deck's kind of stacked against you. But when I ran for office, I signed the agreement to voluntarily limit spending because there's too much money being spent in these elections. We need to have more campaign finance reform. Because if you're not a millionaire, billionaire, you don't have all these special friends, you can't even get off the first base. So I wanted to be a model to say, you know what, this little pastor, this little political pastor with no money could beat this Goliath type person. And so I'm hoping if I win this election, which I think I can, other good candidates without money, without special interest groups, without all these, you know, pay to play people will run for office and will change this country. But it's got to start with the small person saying, let's do it. People say, what qualifies you to be a candidate? I'm a citizen of the United States of America. And the Constitution says if you're a citizen, and I love people. I've been in ministry 22 years. Spent my whole life serving people, not myself, not others. And I think it's what politicians should have served other people. So,
Yeah, definitely. So, speaking about campaign finance reform, it's amazing to me that so many people get wealthy in office. We see that because there's no term limits a lot of times, and they just are in office forever, and they get rich from these
yeah,
special interest groups, and it seems so corrupt. I mean, and then they can use that money to go out and continue to fill that seat. The seat that you're competing for is has that person been in there a long time?
he's been in there 9 years, and he's the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, which is the most powerful person in the whole Senate.
Oh wow.
He's got all the control of the money, and if you're his friend, so 2 weeks before the government employees came to the Senate floor to get $150 million raises, they endorsed him. They
Uh-huh.
did not. They did not interview any of the other candidates. There was two other Democrats, and there was a Republican. No one got interviewed. He got endorsed, and I don't know how it happened, but 2 weeks later, they got $150 million in raises in the middle of a pandemic. But he knew, this is the sad part, he knew that Governor Ige would come out, which he did recently, and now they're going to furlough 20% of them. So let's give you a raise, get your endorsement, get your vote, and we're going to furlough you. And it's sick, it's disgusting, and it's pathetic and it's sad that they would do people this way, and they just fall for it, hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, I mean that is amazing. Boy, the stuff that goes on. You were saying the old boy network. I mean, if you're the guy that gets everybody a raise, that's the
Yeah,
epitome of the old boy network right there.
yeah.
Wow, wow, that's
Well, speaking of raises, uh, in May, which is the middle of the pandemic, the Senate and the House in Hawaii voted to give themselves a 10% pay raise, which goes into effect in January 2021. It's called House Bill 117, Senate Bill 1. And then for the next 4 years, they get 2.5%. So they're going to get a 17% raise in the middle of the worst economy ever that's happened because of pandemic. But they're all getting raises, and they all voted for it.
that's
And no
unreal.
one knows this, but they're going to know on January 21st, and there's going to be some upset people.
Wow.
And as you said, most of them got money anyway. They don't need 10% raise in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah,
It's
not in the
just
middle when all these businesses are
ridiculous.
shutting down, when people are out of
Yeah.
work, and
We still have people waiting on unemployment benefits here. We have people
yeah,
waiting in food lines. Uh, 1,000 businesses have closed forever. They said it'll be 25,000 businesses in Hawaii will close forever, and they're giving themselves 10% pay raise. It's disgusting. I'm sorry, it's just disgusting.
So, you were telling me something else about the vote, that there are just maybe limited places where people can vote. Now,
Yeah,
what we have here is, I think, and like, I'm going to go vote on election day. I'm going to my regular polling place, but you're saying that in on Oahu, you don't have that many places to vote.
no, there's only like three or four you can walk in. They've gone to all-in mail-in ballots, and they thought this was going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. So in the primary, we had the largest turnout ever. 50% of people, 50% who got a mail sent to their house. All they had to do is mark it and walk up to their mailbox. Only 50% decided to vote,
Oh
and
wow.
it's so. And there's two or three places you can, you can walk into, and you can put them in these little blue boxes, and it's just. I think you said it earlier. You know, my granddad was in World War II, went against Hitler. My son's a veteran of Afghanistan. People have died so we can vote. And to me, for only 50% of people to vote, when all you got to do is open up your mailbox, and it just, I don't understand. My dad always told me if you don't vote, you don't have a right to complain about an elected official. So, you know what? In this election, if you like Trump, if you hate Trump, if you like voting, you ought to vote. I mean, really.
Yeah.
We hear about all these movements that have died. Uh, Women and some of the African Americans have gone through so much just to be able to vote, and now people don't vote. So
Hmm?
I like what you
People,
said about my dad. Used to say the same thing. He thinks everybody when they get out of high school should go to the military for 2 years and learn what the world's all about.
yeah, just it would make people more civic minded, and at least know what they're voting for.
Yeah, I've been to Africa twice, and they love America. They think it's the greatest country in the world. They're still in grass huts. They're still drinking water that's muddy. They're getting cholera and malaria, and they're not. They don't hate America. They don't think it's a bad place. They think it's a land of opportunity. Most of them have begged me to bring them back or bring their children back, which I couldn't. But it's amazing to me how, and it's interesting here how someone who's a billionaire, I don't want to mention her name, multiple TV shows and networks, thinks that there's no opportunities in America, but she's a billionaire, and we've had a black president. This is the land of opportunity for everyone. Anyone can make it if you want to make it. So I'm not buying this rhetoric about this is the worst place and all that because
No, it's not. It's
I've been to
not.
Russia, Africa, Guatemala, Honduras, Peru, Trinidad, and all these countries. They think this is the land of opportunity because it is. So it's another reason why we need people in office who believe in the history of the country, the way it really was, not being rewritten. You know, these new textbooks are trying to rewrite the history of the country, and so
I
I could
was
go on and on. But, you know,
in,
that's what preachers do; they just keep rambling.
I was just saying the other day that my new argument against abortion is I think we need a billion Americans. I think we need a billion Americans if we're going to fight a billion communist Chinese. If you said it, this country is the land of opportunity. There is plenty of food. There's plenty of money. There would be plenty of jobs for a billion Americans. We can do that. We can house a billion Americans. I mean, it would happen gradually, but that's something that could really happen. And then these people would be brought up, not like those folks in West Africa under warlords, that they would be brought up in the land of freedom, knowing the freedom of speech, knowing they have the right to bear arms, and knowing that they can worship however they want, because that is essential.
Yeah. Well, in Sudan, and when Bill Clinton was in office in Sudan, ethnic cleansing, there was 800,000 people murdered and killed. So, you know what? We should really appreciate what we have.
Hey, there's a new I saw this documentary on YouTube. It's called the Cannibal Warlords of West Africa, of Liberia. So our old colony, Liberia, has is an independent nation, and they have cannibal warlords, and it makes sense when you see these starving little children in the commercials, for getting help to these folks. These are the kids that grow up to be cannibals. I mean, they might just eat anything, I guess. I don't know why that would be a thing, but they were saying, I'll eat your heart. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I was thinking, my opponent has raised $800,000. How many people that would feed in Hawaii? 12,700 homeless people. So what if we got these campaigns now where they should be, where everybody's on the same plane, and it goes against, you run on your issues, not on how much money you can raise. And somebody told me yesterday that when Ige ran against Abercrombie spent $5 million, and Ige spent 1.5. That's $6.5 million spent just so one of those guys could be elected. Think about all the homes that could have been built and all the good that could have been done.
All the small businesses that could have been launched.
Yeah. So
and people could make their own way and help improve, and then become really civic minded and know how they are being cheated by the government and how they are being denied their opportunity.
It's gotten way out of hand, so we got to rein that in.
Yeah.
My main focus running for office is to lower taxes, lower regulations. I know there's so many regulations in Hawaii, you couldn't build a house if you want to. It takes over a year to get a permit. And then I want to advocate for special needs children. I have a son that's 20 years old, can't walk, can't talk, gets always food through a feeding tube. And I was told by the doctors when he was younger to abort him, and I said, leave the room, I'll never speak to you again. Because he has a precious, beautiful life. He can't talk, but he's brought so much joy and happiness into this world. And I think without him in this world would be a darker place. We've gone to different churches. I've gone to churches where you have the most crusty old senile people that one guy told me, I was here before you came and I'll be here when you leave. And when my son hugged him and put slobber all over him, he just laughed. And his heart opened up in ways you can never imagine. And my boy is a gift to this world, and I can't imagine his life being taken because he was not going to be perfect according to the world standards. So I support life in the womb. I support life outside the womb. And, we're trying to confirm this judge today. And the way I've been hearing her attacked because of her faith, because she believes in pro-life, it's evil. I mean, it's nothing but evil. I believe in pro-life, but also believe you can have a choice. You can choose not to have unprotected sex. You can choose to adopt. There's all sorts of ways you can choose and still have control. And this same group that says it's my choice, my body, wants to tell me I have to wear a mask, I have to stay in my house. We've been quarantined for so long here. So I should be able to stand up and say, hey, it's my body. If I want to go outside, but see, that doesn't work. It's a double standard.
Yeah, the cancel culture.
They only wants the way they want it to work. They just want to control you.
Yeah.
And
don't wear a mask, you're canceled.
It's amazing what we've been seeing here in Hawaii. We've been having Trump rallies, and there's been 400, 500, 600, some of them 1,000 people waving Trump flags. Never happened to here ever before in Hawaii, because
wow.
people are tired of this. What do we call it? This lockdowns. This being told, you can't use straws. New York, you can't buy a large soda. I mean, they want to take everything you can do.
Hey, I was seen on yesterday. In fact, last night I saw on YouTube a Trump parade in Los Angeles, which is crazy. I mean, actually, a Trump parade in Los Angeles, that's like a stronghold for the Democrats. And of course, we see all of the boat parades and stuff like that around major battleground states like Florida. And so,
there's gonna be some surprises. I think some major surprises.
I think so. If if cheating doesn't happen, because I can't believe they decided right before the election to change the way we do elections.
Yeah.
That's insane. I mean,
So I don't think it's going to matter. Truth wins. Truth always wins.
yeah, I mean, you can
They had
stand in
him
line at
behind it.
Walmart. You can't stand in line at a voting booth.
Yeah. I. That's what I think is funny because first they closed the churches down, then opened them back. We only closed for 2 weeks in this whole pandemic. We're a smaller
Amen.
church, But I talked to some pastors, and they said 50% of their people haven't come back. But they go to Walmart and stand in line for Oreo cookies and milk, where they can come to the church and get the bread of life and the living water. But when you go to Walmart and you touch that thing, you don't know how many people's touched it before you. There's
Yeah.
no 6 feet distancing. People were sneezing and coughing and hacking. So, you know, it's just what you think's best for yourself. So it's interesting. Hey, we miss you here in Hawaii. We did some great TV shows when you were here. We used to have fun. We had a couple of knockdown fights too. Remember, we'd walk away.
Oh yeah. Well,
We could get creative people together.
yeah.
But you know what? We had the best time ever. So that's what I learned from that and many other things is I don't want to work with people that just think like I do. I want to work with people that are different and have different ideals and things. And maybe we could fight and throw things down on the ground a little bit. We never fought, but we walked away from each other a few times. But you know what? It came to be a beautiful thing, and you got the joy of your life. You got to go back home and re up with your parents and stuff, and now you're doing this all the things I told you could do, TV, radio, and you're gonna make a movie someday. I always thought you were Steven Spielberg, so
Oh,
I was Tom
thank
Cruise,
you.
and you were Steven Spielberg. but
Well, you know,
dream-
speaking of great works, now you have even just as I was leaving, you had written your first book, Journey to the Center of the Heart, and now you've written a second book.
yeah, I wrote a book on forgiveness, which was similar to that one. I wrote this book in 10 days. I was at Celebrate Recovery, and I was teaching one night about forgiveness. And I walked home, and I told my wife, "Man, I wish I could have said there's so much more to say." She says, "Why don't you write a book?" So I sat down and I wrote a book, and I think there's a few spelling mistakes. But I also wrote one called Journey to Paradise, and I wrote that. It's ready to go. It's just I don't have the money yet for the publisher. I owe another $5,000. But yeah, I just when I was younger, my dad was a Marine. He was real tough. He said, "You're stupid. You'll never do anything." So I ended up getting a master's degree and writing books and TV shows and whatever. I think just to show him. But basically, I believe that scripture says, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and He'll give you the desires of your heart." And I wrote the book to help other people. And same thing with TV show, and same thing with running for office. I just want to help other people be what they can be. There's 7 billion people on the planet. God has a plan for every single one of them. And like you said, all the lives that were lost, how many Einsteins were in there? How many Steve Jobs? How many, people who have the solutions to all the problems could have been in that group of people that didn't have a chance to have a life.
Yeah, the cure for coronavirus.
So we have more freedoms for animals and mice and birds and stuff.
And fish.
They closed down entire islands for a species of a bird, but so it's kind of messed up. But I still believe I believe in God. I go, He has a plan for the world, and I believe if godly people will step up and run, we can change it. We're seeing there's a lot of good things happening. We're seeing some good things. So this is what it took to get here. I don't know if it's true, but I saw on Facebook, Jane Fonda, of all people, trying to speak wisdom, saying that she thinks the virus came to make Trump look bad. Well, it's actually the exact opposite. The virus has exposed the true left progressive liberal policy. You're seeing it played to the hilt. And people don't like it, don't want it. So God doesn't send bad things. But if He did, it wouldn't have been against Trump. It would have been against.
No, people.
So we're
Are,
seeing.
I'm
How do you tell people that you have to stay in your house and that we have this tiered system from Caldwell that you have to be a rocket scientist to figure it out, but he's basically saying he's going to let the virus control your life. You can't control the virus.
That's a lot of noise.
Move the paper. You can't control the virus. You can't determine when that virus will drop and when it won't. You can do things, but you got to go out and you can't be afraid. You got to be bold, courageous, and smart. And if you take the numbers in Hawaii at 1.4 million people and divide that into 117 deaths, the rate of dying here would be 0.00685 or something. And we've had more deaths for other reasons, but I'm not saying it's not serious. It is a serious thing, but you can't. Anyway, you lock these communities down. We have seen and heard there's more domestic violence in the homes. We're still not going to school. Our school systems are closed. There's more addictions, suicides. So all these other deaths that are occurring because of this archaic system, it's not being even talked about, but it will be. Truth always comes out. You know that.
Yeah. That's all. One of the crazier things I heard was, in the school shutdown, and I'm not sure where this was, but they had established learning centers where you could do these online learning centers, and you can actually go there to do the schooling. And guess where the online centers were? At
At
the
the
school.
schools.
Yeah. So it makes no sense. The school's closed, but the online learning center at the school is open. I mean, that's
Well,
just let the kids go
I
to school.
I got a friend and his wife's a teacher, so they're doing it online and they're bringing the rough students, the ones that were hard to deal with. So she's on the computer teaching students, and she's got 12 other kids running around the room. The ones that their parents don't even want them at home, and they think that's a better system. And my daughter goes to Trinity Lutheran School. They've been open the whole time. There's been no cases of virus there,
Good.
and she's learning and she's not missing out on education. And I think about in these high schools, some of these students, the only way they make it to college is through scholarships and sports. There's no sports. And they told this teacher they're going to do away with all electives. There'll be no more electives. So she was a music person. They've cut all music. Now she's teaching social studies. So they're going to take all that away from kids, and they
And
think
just
that's best.
indoctrinate them all day long.
Oh, it's sad. I mean, we're smart people. We could figure out how to do this safely, I believe.
Yeah. Well, hopefully after the election, all this starts to change rapidly, and we get back
Yeah.
to some sense of, you know, common sense, some intelligence where we handle these things more practically. Because this
Yeah.
kind of craziness, and again, I was saying before, I think people are tired of the cancel culture. I heard today that Yelp now is going to flag any business, even if they're just accused of racism. Now, that's insane. So if you just hate a business and you want to give them guff, you just have to accuse them of racism.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of it aggravates me that football players who have all these millions of dollars want to do all this thing. And I told my wife last night, why don't each football player send 10% to the local community they came from, open up community centers, help them with tutoring and after-school programs, instead of giving them once a year 200 bicycles or something. They've got all this money, they've given all these benefits to play a sport, and they want to condemn everyone else. It's ridiculous, totally ridiculous.
I can't believe what's happened in the NFL, how that's turned upside down. I mean, to
Oh,
see, the fans that built these stadiums, that enabled them to build this, billion-dollar industry where they can pay these players hundreds of millions of dollars, and they used to celebrate patriotism. They would have great big
yeah,
flags on the field. There'd be flyovers of jets, and singing patriotic songs. All of us could come together and sing, the national anthem together en masse, like, tens of thousands of people singing together. And now they flip that upside down.
yeah.
And, I quite frankly, I mean, I hope they go out of business. I mean, I
And they're
just,
empty.
yeah. And yeah,
Some of
the,
these,
the great big stadiums that all our money
they're
went to.
beautiful. Uh, they're like Egyptian Gothic cathedrals, and they're empty.
They
It's kind of
turned on the very fans that built that industry. And I'm telling you, I hope it. I would like to see it. If not go out of business, be somewhat diminished. So and get them back to a realistic wage, or salary, so they understand, that it's not just a given that you can take from us just hundreds of millions of dollars and not give back like you were talking about.
But you hit the nail on the head at the beginning of the show. If people will vote this time, there's no reason we couldn't get 90 to 100% vote. There's no reason for it.
No?
We can turn this country around back the way it was founded on. I mean, we came here because we didn't want to pay all these taxes and we wanted religious freedom. Now we're going back. The progressive liberal left wants to take us back to where we escaped from on ships and boats to come and start a new thing. And they're even trying to rewrite all that history. But we can stop it. We can't stop it because there's a lot of people that believe in the Bible, and we have 55 churches in Waiwa, and I'm a Nazarene, but I respect all of them, Buddhist, Hindu, whatever. I don't try to change their religion. I believe in freedom of religion for everybody,
Yeah.
and um, we're going to lose those freedoms. We've already been told if Biden and Harris win, we're going to lose those freedoms. They've already said it, and if that's what people want, then you know
I say it all the time. Communism is the enemy.
they
But
might get it.
John, I'm gonna have to end the show here. But why don't you stay on the line? We can talk a little bit after this. And I just want to say thank you to John Miller for being on the show today. And I want to thank all of you for watching. And if you get a chance, please drop some comments. And I will be back tomorrow at noon, and we will talk a little bit more. Tomorrow we have a great guest also. Her name is Connie the Canoe Lady. Connie the Canoe Lady will be here from the Savannah Ogeechee Canal to talk about all of the wonderful things happening out at one of the best kept secrets, I think, in Chatham County. So with that, I'm going to sign off and say I hope you all have a beautiful day.